Hello and welcome to Daur Media, and this is our special presentation in English language. I'm joined by Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa, who's a regular participant on our shows, and we are very pleased to be joined by Hessan Habibi from Europe, who is a scholar of modern Persia and Iran and all things Iranian. And given the situation, that Iran and the region face. We think it will be great to hear from Hessan Habibi. I will hand it over to Dr. Ayesha Siddiqa to start the conversation, and then I'll jump in, Hessan. Over to you, Ayesha.
Yeah, Raza, thank you so much. I'd met Hissam, I think about 3-4 years ago at a conference in Vienna, and was very impressed, greatly impressed by his work on Iran, especially Iranian Balochistan and the movements there, minority movements. So let's get into it, Hissam. Can I ask you, lead the question by the first question: where do you see Iran at the moment, with the attacks, uh, with America planning a regime change? Is that possible? Can Iran sustain all the attacks? What is the situation? How does it feel to you at the moment?
First of all, thank you for having me, and hello to everyone. And thanks, Mr. Rumi, for your kind introduction. It's a great pleasure to be here. Well, first of all, there are many elements in happening at the same time. You have to think about large populations who came to the street a few weeks before the war in January, protesting for their rights and for having a better life, and kind of clashed at the end. So you still have these grievances in the society, in the communities, Iranian who are desperate to have a better life and have a better future. And at the same time, you have a government and the state together with all different apparatuses who kind of tried different ways to solve the problem with the United States and Israel. And many of these attempts to solve the problem have failed. I mean, we can discuss the failure of these things, but I think this will remain some discussion for the future. And back to your question, at the moment, what we can see is, and on one hand, heavy attacks on different Iranian cities. You get definitely pictures of Iranian cities which are destroyed, like in Sanandaj. You kind of the situation is unbearable, or in the southern part of Iran, in the cities like Bushehr and of course Tehran. And at the same time, you have groups of policymakers in Tehran who are still emphasizing the continuation of the conflicts with the United States, and kind of inspired and believed that this war would come to an end in favor of Iran. And they see this as a historical moment for them to show the world that Iran is like the strongest country in the region and globally. But I think these are somehow mixed with certain war propaganda, which we have to be very careful about it. But at the moment, what we can see is the state at least is functioning despite the fact that the head of the state or head of the whole regime, Ali Khamenei, is not there anymore. And despite this important fact, the apparatuses are controlling the system because they prepared for that. They knew this will come a day, and the question is how long the system can maintain without a leader.
Right. But the impression that we have, the picture that we have definitely in Pakistan, is that, the shops are still full, people are still kind of going about their lives, about their business. Is the pressure coming to, despite all the bombing, is the pressure being felt on the streets of Iran. And, what is the response? I mean, of course, one of the things is that definitely it will strengthen the regime itself. But what is the impact, both short term and long term?
Yes, you can see the state is still working. People can get some food, and from my latest information, the pharmacies are still working, so some people still can get the medicines that they need. But at the moment, it's the fear how long this will maintain, because we have also to consider, first of all, because of the situation in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, we are the closure, let's say the closure of the Strait of Hormuz will also have impact on the Iran's economy dramatically, because they are still dependent on certain goods which will come from the outside. And therefore, it's the question how long the situation will continue, and how long the food can be produced in Iran, how long the government can feed the people, for how long shops are still full with the goods, and when it comes to the issue of medicine. And more critical is also the question how long the financial system, which was already quite on a shaky and in certain parts dysfunction, how this economy can maintain a war in such a scale. And lastly, but also very importantly, is the question how long the population's mood can continue support, or at least witnessing the situation. At the moment, yes, many people are staying at home, trying to survive, to remain safe. But with every day, when they see these attacks, every day when they see apartments destroyed, they start also to think whether the next day they will be the target. And this also creates a very, very strong pressure mentally on Iranian people, and this can also have lots of consequences for the authorities.
That brings me to this question that, there was news of infiltration by Mossad and CIA inside Iran. Where does that situation stand? And will the conflict increase the penetration, or will it stop it?
I think the penetration of the Israelis in Iran's security forces or security apparatuses is something which is a very long project of the Israelis in Iran. I can just refer to President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who also indicated this fact a few years ago, how deep these infiltrations are in the higher level of decision makings. And we also saw during the 12 Days War how they could operate kind of within Iran, in cooperation with certain people inside Iran. So this is a very long project of the Israelis, who spent years and lots of money to get there. I think as the war will continue, of course, again, there are many Iranians who are frustrated with the state, and who see actually their state responsible for this situation. This should not be forget that there are still many Iranians who are very strongly on the side of their government, and even they are critical. They're saying, this is the country, and I'm patriot, and I want to support the country no matter who is running it. But there are also Iranians who are saying that this is not my state, it's not my government at all, and I don't see any future for this country. So therefore, I do everything I can to destroy, let's say, the regime and have a better life. So therefore, this can also, in these times, help the Israelis who want to engage and infiltrate further in the system.
Right.
That brings me to this question that, ultimately Netanyahu's objective has always been collapse of Iran. I mean, since 1992, he's identified Iran as the main threat to Israel. So,
Mhm.
I mean, where do you think that project is headed? Collapse, making use of minorities, such as,
Mhm.
you have the Kurds, you have the Azeris, then you have the Baloch, Iranian Baloch. Where do you think that would be going?
I fully agree with you that for the Israelis is the collapse of the state is kind of a ultimate goal. And this is something that is not a secret, let's say, things that it's, as you mentioned, it's for a very long time there. And also from the Iranian perspective, from the authorities and security perspective, they wrote tons of books and papers in Iran about these aspects. So it's not a big surprise for many that the Israelis actually seeking to see the state completely collapse, and they are willing to do whatever necessary is to see this. And and when it comes to how to do this kind of things, one point was always the playing with the ethnic card, playing with minority issues, which is everywhere in the world. Minority issues has also a geopolitical aspects in it, the same as in Iran, of course, with the country which is so diverse. It's a mixture of different ethnicity that can kind of become the end of the whole state. However, one thing should be very clear that this kind of ethnic aspects in Iran is not as in a way that some people from the outside sometimes observe. They're not as simple as we think, that you can draw a line and say this part is fully under control of the Kurds, this part is belong to Turkmen, and so on and so forth. So you can clearly separate. Of course, there are places which are predominantly belong to or lived by certain ethnic groups, like, as you mentioned, Sistan, Balochistan, or Kurdistan. But you have also lots of other ethnic groups mixed there through the history. For instance, you have part of Iran, Western region, which Kurds and Turks living together. You have also in the eastern part of Iran, Kurds who are living alongside with the Persian groups in the Khorasan province. You have also at the same time Shiite groups, Shiite Kurds, you have Sunni Kurds, and so on. So therefore, it's kind of very difficult to see that really this ethnic card with all this complexity can work. But in the case of Baloch and Kurds, the story is a little bit different because of one aspect is the history. You have a history of Kurdish people in Iran who had their own kind of independent government for a short time in the past. And you have also the history of foreign influence from Russia, for instance, supporting certain separatist movement in Iran. And in the Iranian Balochistan, you have also a history of autonomy among the Baloch in Iranian Balochistan. And these things make those groups a little bit different in their in this perspective. But of course, we have to look how the elites from those regions play in the next coming days and weeks, because I think the external pressure is very strong. We know that there are some attempts to mobilize groups in among the Kurds and also Baloch to continue the destabilizing Iran, but also there are other factors in those regions, especially in Balochistan, who also have a strong power in that communities who can change the game.
So, how is the Iranian regime now dealing with its minorities? I mean, how will they? I mean, right now they're busy attacking, carrying out attacks in different part of the Middle East. But how are they dealing with the minorities? I mean, are there talks? Are they reaching out? What's the game? or are they ready for the collapse or the deal with it?
I think the at the moment is quite difficult because again you have to consider that this is a very securitized time, and the ethnic groups in Iran belong always to the groups which always were under security pressure. They were always treated as a potential threat for the state. So therefore, let's say as a Baloch living in Iran, in the eastern border of the Iran, during this time, automatically I have to be very, very careful to about what I'm saying or what I'm doing, because automatically every small movement can be seen as a threat to the country, can be seen about like cooperating with the foreign countries, and these have lots of consequences. And the ethnic groups, especially Kurds and Baloch in Iran, they know that in case their states decide to put pressure on them, there is no hesitation of violation. So the state will show no mercy in attacking Kurds and Baloch in this time, because they have kind of a legitimate reason from their side, of course, to attack them, to target them, because they see it's a necessity. It's about survival of the state. And one other last thing is that the state also knows about the importance of this ethnic element, and tries to kind of instrumentalize for their own interest. Just to give you an example, a few days ago there was a gathering in Balochistan, Iranian Balochistan, where security forces from Revolutionary Guard met with few peoples from Balochistan. I don't know which tribes they met, but they were like a meeting, and they were make some picture and videos showing that some armed Baloch are saying that we are ready to support the state in case of any problem. So this brings it to a kind of a very dangerous scenario that I think the states also try to control, and this is Baloch fighting against Baloch, Kurds fighting against Kurds. So in a very worst case scenario, if things goes wrong, I can see a very dramatic situation in those regions when some Baloch supported by the states fighting against Balochs who are independent or who don't want to participate in this war.
Right.
Just one more question, in fact, two more. What do you think would be the nature of relation right now between Pakistani Baloch insurgents and the Baloch in Iranian Balochistan? Where is that
This is
going?
yeah. Sorry, continue.
No. I'm just curious, because apparently one part of the BLA has actually announced and talked about Greater Balochistan, freedom of Greater Balochistan. Does that attract on the Iranian side of the border, and how will they be responding, do you think?
I think one very important point about the kind of central difference between Iranian Baloch and the Pakistani Baloch group is the way that they define their identity. The Iranian Baloch, because they lived under a Shiite state, they are putting emphasis on their Sunni identity. So the Iranian Baloch are predominantly belong to the school of Deoband and Deobandi Sunni Hanafi, and this is the point which they identify themselves and they connect themselves. The Iranian Baloch, majority of Iranian Baloch, predominantly they connect themselves with the wider Islamic world from Central Asia to Iran because of their Hanafi identity. However,
Right.
I think the Baloch in Pakistan, because they're living in a Sunni state, in a way they have more identity on the ethnic aspects, being a Baloch, and this is one of the reasons why I think it true connection between two sides never worked. I mean, there was a time that some of the Iranian Baloch activists tried to come close to the Baloch community in Pakistan, but this was just very small era. But I can remember also to talking with some Baloch in Iran who talked that they are following what happens in the other side of Balochistan, eastern Balochistan. They also talk about some of the movement of the Baloch in Pakistan. Or I also met a Baloch who has the picture of Dr. Mehrang Baloch, I think, in his apartment, showing the solidarity with the other Baloch community. But these are very small kind of groups and movement who are there. The whole Iranian Balochistan is controlled fully and influenced by Zahedan's Makki mosque. The Makki belonged to the very well-known clerics, Sunni Shaykh al-Islam of Zahedan, Maulana Abdul Hamid, who is respected among not just the Iranian Sunnis in Balochistan, but respected from Afghanistan to Tajikistan, and also respected in Iranian Kurdish groups, because they see him as someone who is trying to defend the rights of all minority groups.
All right, one last question before I hand over to Raza. And that is, do you see a regime weakening, change? And if that happens, a weakening or a change, what impact would it have on the rest of the region, rest of the Middle East, its economy? Do you see a wider impact?
Absolutely, definitely there will be. I mean, it's just because Iran is connected historically to many other countries in the region, and geopolitical of Iran has influence to the whole region, and most likely also to here in Europe. But what the impact will be depends on what kind of change we're gonna see. I mean, if there is, let's say, one of the scenario, if it's possible to indicate, is if the regime will maintain the power in whatever way they can, if they remain and survive as they try to present, because every day that is goes, the regime and the authorities in Iran, they try to present it as a victory. Every day with survival, it means we made it. One more day against the whole entire world, against one country in Iran. So therefore, in case there is, the system will remain, and let's say the American and the Israelis kind of retreat from the attacking Iran, then you have to face a state or regime who said, I survived the war with the biggest military countries in the world, so you cannot come close to me, or I will do whatever I can, because it gives them a certain confidence, which can be very, very dramatic for the rest of the neighboring country as well. However, if the regime fail and there is no alternative controlling the country and the state, or in the case of a failed state situation, with the combination with the civil war scenario, then definitely you have in every corner of the region certain issues emerging from Balochistan to Kurdistan, and Iran will be just like a battlefield for all different powers coming fighting against each other, or against it will become a ground for many conflicts, with lots of course negative impacts in the whole region.
I was, in any case, I was talking to our common friend, Walter Posh, and he said that, in coming years, Iran may be isolated, bombed every now and then, and that is a possible scenario.
The possibility of regime maintaining control. Yes.
Yeah, but it will be a weakened regime, constantly being attacked from outside, bombing every now and then.
Yeah, this is definitely also another one of the case scenarios in this region. But this is something that I would say this is part of the the failed state scenario, because I mean with bombing from every week or every from time to time, uh, again, Iran is in a location that it's it's going to have automatically impact on the other countries. As long as you have a failed, not functioning state, which is weak or strong, is no matter. It will has negative impact in Iran. But I definitely agree with our dear friend Dr. Posh regarding this point.
Yeah. So I think Aisha has covered all the ground and the questions I had. But I go back to the Kurdish strategy, because that is something I just read this morning on a platform, War on the Rocks, which was advising Washington to abandon this plan because it is going to, annoy Turkey, Iraq, Pakistan, and provide a greater, because they would be more concerned about Iran, about this Kurdish issue, than Iran's retaliation and the attacks it's doing. So how, from a purely theoretical perspective, how effective can this ploy be? Can it actually break Iran territorially, or weaken its regime to annihilation? That's what the US and Israel have been wanting.
Um, Before I answer this question, I think one important thing is just to remember, because this discussion came out into media after there was like a leaked report of CIA trying to arm these groups. So from that time, I was asking myself, how is it possible during this sensitive time a report from CIA is kind of leaked at the time? So in these cases, at the moment, every leaked information, we have to be very concerned about what is the political
Mm.
motive behind that point. Why and who decided for which reason to kind of share this information with the world. And in this regard, I think, and I have talked with many other experts on this field in the last 48 hours, and I think we agree on that this is, or this was part of this strategy to put a certain pressure on the authorities in Tehran by saying that this can go that far. So be careful, as a warning that, we can get there and start this Syrianization of the Iran as a country. So, and from the Iranian side perspective, the authorities also kind of started to focus mainly on this issue to also send the message that we even ready to risk everything, even risk relations with Turkey and with Iraq, by creating a scenario in which we are ready to send forces to to Kurdistan to fight against Kurdish group. There was also even certain interview in the media in Iran yesterday with some people in the street in the Azerbaijan province in north west of Iran, with some people who said, yeah, we are ready to also take arms and go there and fighting. So therefore the state, also the Iranian, tried to show that this might be very, very critical point, because we're ready even to risk a civil war in order to confront with that. But the reality is that as far as I know, the Iranian Kurds, and I know it because of many friends, many colleagues, everything in the last 10 years in which I started working on the ethnic question in Iran, I always was realized that they observe the history, the Kurds, and especially the Iranian Kurds have very quite they are well educated. They realize what happened in Iraq. They realize what happened in Syria. And I mean, the fact that they were instrumentalized in different wars for different countries, and at the end they left alone, is something which is not far ago. It's not a history from 100 years ago. It's something that happened in 2017. And very recently in Syria, they realized that how the American kind of abandoned Kurds. So therefore, they are also concerned in Iran, the Kurds, when they see these kind of reactions, and they know how to react about it. So in theory, of course, there is a possibility that every smaller groups in Iran to use an opportunity to continue their agenda. This, I agree with that. And even before the war started, certain Kurdish groups in the region decided to build a coalition to say that we are united in confronting the Islamic Republic. But that plan at that time, which was a week before the war happened, that was a plan to support wider Iranian people. So the motives was a kind of support the rest of the country who participated in a demonstration to join in and to show that the Kurds are ready to support in the other Iranian in order to have a right in the future of Iran, in order to have a participation, in order to have a chance to have at least more freedom in for their decision making and as a political agenda.
So, in short, it sounds more perhaps feasible on paper or in just boardroom discussions than actual groundwork, because it's not going to be easy in achieving this Syria scenario in Iran as well. So, I guess you've covered the Baloch side as well. And the final question that I would have, and many viewers are also asking, is about the survivor. I mean, you earlier mentioned that Dr. Ayesha also concluded that the regime may survive, but the real question is that if that is the case, then what would Israel and the US achieve by creating all of this uncertainty? Because without a change in the government, a government which is blind to Israel and to the US objectives in the region, especially Israeli objectives, there's no point in undertaking this war. Hessan?
Yes, definitely. I do agree with you, and I share the same confusion sometimes when I listen to politicians. And especially, we have to also differentiate the US objective and Israeli objectives.
Correct.
We said that in the beginning, that Benjamin Netanyahu has a different agenda probably compared to President Trump. And also looking at the statements of President Trump, you hear from time to time very, very different statements. Sometimes he's in a favor of regime change, and then he said that it should happen inside Iran. There should be someone within the political system, and then he changed, and then he realized that some of the potential cases inside Iran are most likely dead. So I think there is also lots of miscalculations happening from all different sides. A chaotic time, and we have to expect a certain confusion in the decision makers' time. But I definitely agree with your point that in case they left the country kind of a semi-collapse with the same government, then the goal is not achieved. Then it will be received and perceived as a failure of the US and the Israelis. But in case there is a reasonable change in the system, then at least the American can say that they achieved certain point. But this also have to be mentioned in this program for your viewer, that I think the Iranian people they know that other countries, great powers, have lots of plan for the country, but at the end, this is their own decision. They have to come and find a solution for their future of the country, and this will be at the end the most important point.
You know, or I would argue, Wissam, that I don't think there is a difference between how the plans that Trump versus Netanyahu had for Iran. The only difference is that the sensitivities are very different. US has to look at its own economy, the impact. It has to look at where it can play a role, and therefore there might seem to be a difference. But otherwise, I think the kind of team that Donald Trump has with Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, they have greater cooperation with Netanyahu, and Trump. His problem is that sometimes he doesn't look at plans. He doesn't read. But a different sensitivity. Just one last thing, which is that I think the world is also looking at China and Russia. Would they help? Would they play a role? And a lot of people are curious if China, I mean, there was an expectation, at least in Pakistan, that, China will act, China will do something. And it didn't. So it's a bit of a disappointment. Why do you think China didn't do anything? Or did it do something?
I think the Iranian has always this kind of theory in mind that, and there is, by the way, this it's a theory that it's discussed in many research inside Iran by very brilliant scholars about what is so-called strategic loneliness. This is the state of Iran as a state which is alone, with no support from other states or countries. That's one of the reasons why they argue why Iran they started to cooperate with non-state actors like Hezbollah and Hamas, because strategically Iran never had a real ally in the world. And there were many attempts to kind of create a strategic partnership with China and Russia. And there was this agreement, 20 years agreement with China and also with Russia, which was signed, or I don't know what happened with it in the parliament. But anyway, all of these agreements, they were not about military cooperation. They were more about certain cooperation, or at least some security agreement, intelligence sharing, and so on. But that's it. So I think the expectation also in Iran is very low when it comes to China and Russia, that they will join and they will do something in that case. And the reason is quite clear, because these are two actors who have their own agenda in the future. They will, and I think they are benefiting from the situation, what's going on, Russia and China, both of them, from the conflicts. And the Iranian also aware of this fact. But there are some factors who are also emphasizing that even it might be that Russia will be supporting other states against Iran. So you can see that the perceptions are as changing. But especially in the case of Russia, we can see their involvement in Ukraine, that they have their own problems or issues, and they don't want also to risk their future because of Iran, as they have also very good relations with the Gulf countries and with Israel even.
Yeah, so has China.
Yeah.
But
Ayesha, we have to wrap up the show, but I think I should also, before we go, let me also ask you, why do you think the Chinese and Russians are so hands off? I mean, after all, China's oil supply after Venezuela, Iran was another big source for Chinese energy needs, and China is an economy growing in leaps and bounds. I mean, so in a way, the attack on Iran can also be seen from that perspective. A lot of people are thinking along those lines, that how the Chinese economic might is also being punctured as we speak. So give us your view as well, and then we'll wrap up and say bye to our viewers?
Are you asking me or Hessan?
No, to you.
I think, firstly, it's very funny, but I think, was it yesterday or day before, that United States has sent Steve Witkoff to China with this offer that, forget about the Middle East. We'll supply you with oil and gas and at concessional rates. So it's reaching out its money, calling the shots there. But I think more than that, one of the things is that Xi Jinping right now is, purging his military. So not in a position to get involved. Secondly, he has links with Israel as well, China. And thirdly, he's watching American military capability. I mean, American ships are parked, they're fighting, and Chinese involvement, which irks United States, and United States is in a mood where it can expand its conflict without thinking, would be very dangerous. So they're trying to stay away. Whatever kind of technological cooperation that had happened has happened before, much before this war started. But neither China nor Russia are getting involved at the moment. Of course, there is news of intelligence technology, that technology being shared, targeting, etc. That might be the case, but not active involvement. And in any case, I think politically China benefits, because now what the United States has done, it can also get back and say, look, we are also a power, and we also have our stakes in Taiwan and other places. So, can we do the same?
Yes.
I mean, in fact, this war has strengthened Russia's case in Ukraine.
Definitely. With that, I thank you both. Sam, especially your time. You said we've gone a little over 30 minutes. And thank you, Ayesha, for convincing and persuading Hessan to join us. Hope to hear from you again, and we'll request you again in the coming days, because given the situation, we don't think this war is ending anytime soon. Anyway, goodbye for now, and thank you.
Thank you so much.